ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, welcome in. It is the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers live here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits, of course, often rolling here on a Wednesday. It is opening day eve, and I tell you what, I'm excited. So up until 2 years ago, I had never been to an opening day. I never been to an opening day up until 2 years ago, and I'm hooked. And I'm going again tomorrow, off tomorrow, by the way. All of you should be. All of you should be in Cincinnati at Great American Ballpark because, like, the bottom line is tomorrow, with it being opening day, it is the one day throughout the season that we could at least all collectively agree that as Reds fans, you can't be disappointed. And I made this joke on Off the Bench earlier today. I promise you this, no matter what happens tomorrow, the Reds could lose tomorrow. They will not be in last place. The Cubs are 0-2 in the season. So no matter what happens for your Reds, they will not be in last place by the end of at the end of tomorrow night. That I can guarantee you. So we welcome you in. A lot to get into. Excuse me, I'm getting a little under the weather, unfortunately, but I'm trying to tough it out. Got opening day tomorrow. Got big plans this weekend. Ready to rock. Got a lot of fun shows remaining here this week. Here's the deal. We got some college basketball talk today. Richard Pitino named the new head coach at Xavier. The Ohio State Buckeyes, they had Brooks Cupps, Centerville legend, out of the portal. The Dayton Flyers lose Malachi Smith. The Wright State Raiders lose Brandon Knoll. The Cincinnati Reds lose Austin Hayes. But they somehow get back Spencer Steer, kind of. We'll talk about that. I think that basically sums up today's show. So let's hit the ground running. Tomorrow, opening day, Reds-Giants, 4:10 the first pitch, 3:40 pregame coverage begins. A lot to get into as we get you set for that matchup. Okay, and as I sit here today, I'm not going to buy that rumor. There's some weird sports rumors going on right now involving my Cleveland Browns. I'm a little distracted. I don't even want to discuss it. I don't even want to pretend that I'm buying into it. As far as that's concerned. So let's focus, Kenner. Let's focus on the Cincinnati Reds. Here's the deal. The Cincinnati Reds today announced the following transactions as we head into tomorrow's opening day matchup. Reds and Giants. Hunter Green going to be on the mound opening day, finally getting his opening day start. He should have had it last year, but the Reds got a win on opening day last year. He gives them the best chance to get one tomorrow. But here's the deal. Here's what the roster looks like. We came in to the, I woke up today, and I know last night we had the Reds against the future prospects at Great American Ballpark, 25-year celebration of the Dayton Dragons. Pretty cool. But I don't want to act like I'm a hypocrite because I was actually against it. I did not like the idea of the Reds playing in an actual game-style format, exhibition, whatever you want to call it, days before opening day. This team was already banged up. You had Spencer Steer on the IL, Tyler Stevenson on the IL, Andrew Abbott, Alexis Diaz on the IL. And that was before the matchup at Day Air Ballpark yesterday. I just said, why risk it? Why tempt fate? Why risk getting injured? Why risk any of that stuff? This team, their margin for error is so slim. They don't have depth. When they're fully healthy, it's actually not a bad lineup. It's a very good rotation. They're much improved defensively from a year ago. They don't have the depth to be able to withstand any injury outbreak. And I think starting out the season with 4 guys on the IL, that's an outbreak for the Cincinnati Reds because there's no depth behind him. And when you think about the fact that the outfield, a spot that when the Reds are completely healthy, it's still vulnerable. It's still weak, even when completely healthy. The fact that 2 of the 4 or 5 guys they have on the active roster as outfielders are on the IL, although 1.5, I guess, if that's how you want to word it, man, oh man, not a good spot to be in. So I didn't like the idea of the celebration game last night. You know, get these guys in bubble wrap, get them home, get them prepared for opening day. Luckily, no injuries happened last night. Injuries were announced last night. Injuries were did not happen last night, luckily. But here you go, the Cincinnati Reds transactions for today. Placed on the 10-day injured list, going back to March 24th, Austin Hayes, one of the Reds' newest additions this past offseason, came from Baltimore, a former all-star outfielder, was an all-star 2 years ago, by the way, and obviously was dealing with some health issues last year. His numbers regressed. He took a major step back. But I feel good about Austin Hayes, a guy that's going to hit in the 280s if completely healthy and ready to rock. Obviously going to start the season on the IL, not good. It is a calf injury. That is my concern. But here are the two players that start out on the 10-day injured list, Austin Hayes and Tyler Stevenson. I do like, if you want to put a positive spin on it, the fact that it's the 10-day injured list. It's going to be one of those things that they monitor on a week-to-week basis. It doesn't appear that Tyler Stevenson or Austin Hayes are going to be out for a long amount of time. I like that. Let's move to the next tier, the 15-day injured list, going back to March 24th. Left-handed pitcher Andrew Abbott, Alexis Diaz, and Rhett Lauder. All three of those pitchers pop up on the 15-day injured list. Placed on the 60-day injured list, left-handed pitcher Brandon Williamson. And selected from AAA Louisville to the contract for catcher Austin Wynns. So there you go. These are the players that are starting out on the IL. Austin Hayes and Tyler Stevenson for your Reds will not be in uniform tomorrow for the Reds for opening day. They start out the season on the 10-day injured list going back to March 24th. So technically on the IL for another 8 days at the very least. Placed on the 15-day injured list going back to 2 days ago, of course, Andrew Abbott, Alexis Diaz, and Rhett Lauder. Andrew Abbott, a legitimate starter. When healthy, is one of the best pitchers that the Reds have. That's your fifth starter in the rotation. That says to me that they have depth with this pitching staff. They don't have a lot of depth to be able to take on a bunch of injuries, but the fact that Andrew Abbott is out, Andrew Abbott being out for a significant period of time a year ago would have devastated that team. The fact that Andrew Abbott is out to start the season, and yet I don't feel like that's going to be as big of a blow as what people think it is, that speaks to the depth of the rotation. I love the fact that you have Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Nick Martinez, and then you go and get Brady Singer in the trade for Jonathan India, and then Carson Spires, who has thrown the ball really, really well throughout spring training, is the Reds' fifth starter to start the season, due to, of course, Andrew Abbott being on the IL. I'm fine with the Reds' rotation to start the season. I really am. I don't mind it. As far as we sit here right now, here's what potentially the Reds lineup could look like for tomorrow as well. I mean, as we sit here right now, I find it interesting, with what we know about the roster, with how beat up it is, with what's remaining. It is interesting kind of taking a look at this and kind of seeing what we're working with. Give me a second to pull this up. My phone's kind of freezing on me here we go. The Reds' likely opening day lineup after the news today regarding, of course, Austin Hayes starting out the season, as well as Tyler Stevenson on the IL. Here's what the lineup could look like tomorrow. TJ Friedl starting in center field, leading off. Matt McClain batting second, getting the start at second base, of course. At shortstop, batting third, Elly De La Cruz. How about Spencer Steer in the cleanup spot as the designated hitter? A guy that we thought was going to start the season on the IL. We got to see him get a few at-bats last night at Dayton Ballpark, and he will, it looks like, potentially, this is what could be the opening day lineup tomorrow, him in the cleanup spot as a designated hitter. Xavier Candelario, $15 million a year, brought over to Cincinnati last season as a guy that many people believe, including myself, could be that 30-plus home run hitter for the Reds. It'd be nice if he could live up to those expectations and carry that load for Cincinnati. That would be huge. But if he's batting fifth in your lineup with guys ahead of him like Spencer Steer, Elly De La Cruz, Matt McClain, TJ Friedl, again, not a very deep roster. I like this lineup thus far. Right? Like, I like this lineup. TJ Friedl, Matt McClain, Elly De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, Xavier Candelario. You'd have to think that Tyler Stevenson is going to be in the mix in the middle of that somewhere when he returns. But right behind Xavier Candelario at third base and batting fifth, potentially Gavin Lux in left field batting sixth. Christian Encarnacion Strand, your first baseman, batting seventh. That's more expected power for your Reds. Jake Fraley in right field, batting eighth, and then batting ninth, your backup catcher, Jose Trevino. So these are the names that you could potentially expect to see in here in the lineup tomorrow. TJ Friedl, Matt McClain, Elly De La Cruz. That's your center fielder, second baseman, and shortstop. Xavier Candelario, your third baseman. Christian Encarnacion Strand, your first baseman. Matt McClain at second. Gavin Lux getting the responsibility of carrying it out in the outfield. So there you go. That's where we're at as we sit here right now. As far as the bench is concerned, Austin Wynns is your backup catcher to Jose Trevino, who's actually the backup catcher. I really am curious about Tyler Stevenson. I like that he's on the 10-day IL. I like that it wasn't on the extended IL list. I'm glad it wasn't 15 or obviously 60. But Blake Dunn made the full roster, which is very cool. Heard a lot about it. We got to see him in Dayton. The kid's unbelievable. I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table as a rookie, to see what he can get done early for the Reds. Jacob Hurtubise, and then Santiago Espinal. Say what you want about Espinal. He's not the sexiest with the bat in his hand, but he's arguably their best defensive infielder. I mean, if you remember back to last year, for those that hadn't checked out completely, he was a guy that was really tough to keep out of the lineup, or not really keep out of the lineup, but keep out of the lineup because you needed him defensively. You needed his glove out in the field. I like Santiago Espinal. I'm really curious to see how they're going to utilize him, because this is a team that just by adding Terry Francona as manager, they're going to be much improved defensively as it is. Espinal's not a name that you're going to go and buy a jersey of. You're not going to vote him as an all-star, but to have a very, very good elite defensive player as a utility player, man, if the kid could just put a bat with his game, that'd be unreal. But they're going to need some of that defensive help right there nonetheless. But as I mentioned, if you're just joining us, it's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. The Cincinnati Reds opening day matchup tomorrow with the Giants, 4:10 the first pitch, 3:40 pregame coverage begins. Hunter Green going to be on the mound, your Reds opening day starter. No surprise there. Finished 8th in Cy Young voting last year, and I think he's going to be right there in the mix of things again. I think that last year, keep in mind, he didn't get off to the hottest start. He got off to a good start last year. Hunter Green was very good in April and May, and then he was really good in June, lights out in July, even better in August, and then he got hurt heading into September. But he was putting up Cy Young caliber stuff heading into the month of September. Unfortunately, he got hurt. He missed a few weeks. There was the big debate that why even bring him back at all, because we were heading into the final 10 days of the season. And, there was reports of Hunter Green, being eligible to make a rehab start or two in the minors and then come back and be called up, whatever. I was against that. But that's how good he was pitching last year, that obviously finished 8th in Cy Young. I think he could finish significantly higher if he picks up where he left off, and the Reds finish higher in the standings, of course. But the Reds just got to do their best not to finish in the bottom third of the National League like ended up happening last season. So we'll see what happens. But, man, I'm like looking at this. People are so down on the Reds. I felt the energy on off the bench today, and I didn't blame Elliott one bit. I didn't blame Jacob one bit, Casey, the guys. Like, it is tough to sit here and act like these injuries aren't just a constant thing. And I hate talking about injuries. Because I don't know who to blame. Is this someone's fault? Is it the Reds' fault? Is it Terry Francona's fault? Is it the training staff's fault? Is it the medical personnel's fault? Whose fault is it that the Reds just always seem to be hurt? That's what I'm curious about. Because it's not, I can't just say, well, everyone's dealing. I see that a lot. Well, everyone's dealing with injuries. I get that. But man, oh man, does it seem like the Reds always have significant talent on the shelves. But then I got to thinking, who to blame for injuries? I'm going to blame the front office, but not for the injuries. I'm going to blame the front office for just not investing into the back end of this team. If you're not willing to spend a ton of money to add a lot of high-end talent to the roster, at least be willing to invest some heavy dollars into adding depth to this roster. You know, the fact that Shohei Ohtani last year can go and win an MVP without pitching and just playing one side of the ball, I mean, my gosh, that's how normal people win MVPs, but he's not normal. But you only get half of Shohei Ohtani last year. Dodgers win the World Series. He wins MVP. It was like he didn't miss a beat, right? You know, they're going to be without Mookie Betts for a little bit, who's battling some really complicated health issues that he had before he went to Japan and is still fighting it. I guess he's lost like 25 pounds in 2 weeks. So the fact that the Dodgers could be without Mookie Betts and be dealing with a limited Shohei Ohtani, and the fact that they don't freak out, they don't panic, they don't care, they're going to keep winning. That's because they have depth. You could say it's because they have stars. It's because they have depth. You could have stars, but if Mookie Betts is missing time and Shohei Ohtani is injured, doesn't really matter. But when you have depth, that's where this comes into play. Here's the problem. The Reds outfield is straight garbage, right? We know this. But the fact that we are freaking out because, oh my gosh, Austin Hayes is out and Spencer Steer should be on the IL, but is only going to be held to a designated hitter role. We're acting as if, man, if only the Reds could have a healthy Spencer Steer and Austin Hayes, we'd still be complaining about the lack of strength of an outfield with those two healthy. But the fact that Austin Hayes starts the season on the IL, Spencer Steer limited to only a DH role, it truly is one of those things where now it went from bad to worse. There's no depth there. There's no depth on this roster. This team can't afford injuries anywhere. So it's one of those things where we're panicking, wanting to point the finger at people who to blame for injuries. I don't think that's fair to do. I don't think it's anyone's fault that these injuries happen. These are professional athletes who put a lot of strain and wear and tear on their bodies as they prepare to make the millions that they do to play a professional sport, of course. I think it just gets exposed more in Cincinnati when there's, well, literally the gap between them and their backup is so damn wide. We've talked about there are legitimate pieces in that Dodgers farm system that would be starting for most ball clubs in Major League Baseball. That's how much depth the Dodgers have. There's a reason that they gave the Reds basically Gavin Lux for nothing. There's a reason that the Reds have been getting Kyle Farmer from the Dodgers years ago. There's a reason that the Reds keep going back to the Dodgers well, because usually a Dodgers cast-off is a pretty damn good player that they just don't have room for over there. The Dodgers have all the depth in the world. The Reds have none. A Dodgers secondary depth piece is a piece that when the Reds lose, they panic. If Gavin Lux misses time, the Reds are in trouble. The Dodgers just gave him away. You know what I mean? Like, it's a depth issue. It's not an injury issue. To sum up, for everyone that's making a big deal, man, the Reds are always banged up. I mean, they're without Tyler Stevenson. They're without, obviously, Austin Hayes. We thought they'd be out with Spencer Steer and some of these other guys. The Reds don't have a health problem. They don't have an injury issue. They have a depth issue. Because if you have depth, if you have, a very good, secondary group of guys in that clubhouse and bullpen, it's not ideal to lose guys, but it doesn't feel like the end of the world. And we know how important it is for the Reds to get off to a hot start. Let's see. Ron Howard says the Reds record from season openers through April under 500. Reds will be 4 back. Yeah, we talked on yesterday's show about the importance of getting off to a hot start if you're the Cincinnati Reds. 9 of the last 10 World Series champions found themselves in first place of their division at the end of the month of April. And I don't look at the Reds as a legit World Series contending team, but the secret sauce is being competitive right off the bat. Like, I hate this thing, like this mindset that a lot of people have. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. That's baloney. Tell that to the Cincinnati Bengals, who constantly, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. The Bengals always finish hot. They've missed the playoffs 2 years in a row because they've started slow. Don't tell me it's not how you start, it's how you finish. The Bengals always finish hot, but they get screwed over because they start slow. The Cincinnati Reds, I'm not saying they have to be undefeated in the month of April, but they need to get anywhere between 13. If the Reds don't have 13 to 15 wins by the end of April, that's a problem. That means it's going to be a long season. 9 of the last 10 World Series champions were sitting in first place atop their division. Do I expect the Reds to be in first place atop their division? I do not. I, at the very least, expect a 500 record at the end of the first month of the season. It's as simple as that. They have to get out to a hot start. I don't want to go through another season of watching a team be 6, 7, 8 games under 500, 6, 7 games back, trying to go on a run. Oh, look, they took a couple 3-game series here and there, and they've cut it to within 2.5, 3.5 games, and then they break your heart because they get swept because they're just not as good as we thought. This team should be as good as what we hope it is heading into the season. We'll find out. Roger, what up, Roger? 2024 April was the first winning month of April since 2013. Well, yeah. And like they got off to, they didn't get off to a horrible start last year. If you guys remember, it was a average April start. Above 500 start, but then they had that 12-game losing streak in May. In fact, the Reds had a winning month. They had a winning record in April, a losing record in May because of the fact that they went on that 12-game losing streak, or 11 or 12. They actually had a winning record in June, and I think to start July. I think they had a winning record in 3 of the first 4 months. Not a winning record overall, but they had won more games than they lost in 3 of the first 4 months, but they had an under 500 record because of that damn 12-game losing streak. It was horrible. Yeah, Roger says May was horrible. It was not good. It was not good at all. What up, Shaw? Shaw says the depth issue and the injury issues are the same. You are correct. And the front offices are failing to get the depth needed, magnifies the early issues. That being said, the Reds are heated. I'm sorry, I can't follow on that. I can't even read that. My bad, Shaw. My bad. I'll go back to read that coming up in a bit. 9-18 in the month of May last year. Not good enough. Not good enough as far as that goes. But I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Head to the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Like the show page, and you can watch us live each and every day from 3 to 5 o'clock right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Interact. Leave your comments in the comment section, and I'll pull them into the show. You could also give us a call, 937-518-1410. These injuries, why can't we put our finger on it? What's the problem? Why are the Reds always injured? That's the question I keep getting. The Reds they're an injury-riddled club. They have an injury problem. And I'm here to tell you I disagree. I don't think they have an injury problem. They have a depth problem. Injuries will always be a part of the game. You will never go 162 games without significant injuries to some key pieces. But it's about what you have around them to kind of close the gap and make up for it. How are you going to overcompensate for some of these injuries early on? And the front office did not act with enough urgency in the offseason. Now, the season's not done. Technically doesn't even start until tomorrow. We're still over 24 hours away from the season technically starting. But the bottom line is a lot of you just seem kind of doom and gloom, saying they have an injury problem. They don't. They have a depth problem. They don't have the pieces to be able to withstand any significant injuries. When healthy, I really love this lineup. When healthy, I love the rotation. When healthy, the bullpen's pretty strong. Yeah, but the outfield's bad. Well, the outfield's then why are you freaking out about Spencer Steer and Austin Hayes being hurt to start? Because if you didn't like them when they're healthy, can't say it's a problem when they're not. By saying it's a problem that they're not healthy means you're acknowledging, that this team's not the worst team in Major League Baseball, and it's not even one of the worst Reds teams that they've had in the last. This is a good team. I think the Reds have a good team, and I think what's left, even with the guys that are injured, I think this is still a good team. And they're managed by arguably the best manager in baseball. We'll see what happens. Excited for opening day tomorrow. We'll get into some more baseball coming up around the corner. Talk a little basketball. The Dayton Flyers lose Malachi Smith. Wright State loses Brandon Knoll. The Ohio State Buckeyes lose a couple pieces, but they add a big one. Local star from Centerville, Gabe Cupps, who entered the portal out of Indiana, chooses the Buckeyes. How about that? Xavier, well, they lose a couple pieces to the portal, but, man, they get a huge addition in new head coach Richard Pitino. We'll talk about that coming up around the corner as well. College basketball, baseball, ton of fun stuff still to get into. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. All right, and we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. Make sure you stop on out at one of your local neighborhood Frickers for their frickin' lunch combo for $10.99. The frickin' lunch combo features many options, such as frickin' chicken chunks, cheeseburgers, charbroiled chicken, and the frickin' chicken wraps. You also get a side and a drink, all for $10.99. The frickin' lunch combo is available Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Dine in or carry out. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. Reds opening day coming up tomorrow. Hunter Green going to be on the mound. Reds start out the season with a couple key components on the IL. Some of those names included Tyler Stevenson, who's on the 10-day injured list. That is, to me, I think that's a relief. It's unfortunate he's on the IL at all, but to see him on the 10-day IL versus, the 15 or 60 or extended or whatever, I'll take that. Doesn't mean he's going to be back in that amount of time, but I think they're kind of giving that a chance to breathe a little bit to see what happens as far as that's concerned. So obviously Andrew Abbott, Rhett Lauder, Alexis Diaz all start out on the 15-day, IL for the Cincinnati Reds. And the name that started out is on there is Austin Hayes, which that was the newest one. We heard that news break last night. Tommy Thrall, radio voice of the Reds, kind of let it be known throughout the broadcast that was one of the unfortunate things that they were kind of dealing with late last night. So either way, I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this too. Spencer Steer, we were told was going to be on the IL to start the season. Spencer Steer last night at their ballpark ended up DHing last night. He was a designated hitter last night for a guy that can't throw. And I'm like, well, if he's on the IL, why is he even anywhere near the field? Why is he touching a bat? Like if surgery's needed, if he needs to rest it, whatever. Like I wasn't a fan of him playing last night. However, there's a very good chance he's in the opening day lineup tomorrow as the designated hitter. And I kind of like the DH for these purposes right here. If there's opportunities to still be able to use guys, even if a certain injury kind of prevents them from being able to excel at a certain position defensively, then this is a great time to do it. But if surgery is needed and they're putting it off, I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather him just knock out the surgery now. If he's out for the year, he's out for the year. But don't tease us. I also get tired of when we deal with an injury-riddled team like this. We keep doing the teasing game, like Matt McClain. Well, just get a month into the season. Hopefully, get Matt McClain back, and this team will be all right. All right. Well, let's just get to June and get Matt McClain back. We'll be all right. Well, if we could just get Matt McClain back before the All-Star break, it's All-Star break. Well, maybe by the trade deadline, if you make a big trade and you add somebody and then you get Matt McClain back, I mean, it's like getting a 2-for-1. Matt McClain was out for the year. I don't want to be strung along by the Reds all season. Just be up front. Are these guys good to go or not? Spencer Steer, is he good to go or not? I mean, he probably is. He played last night. Tyler Stevenson, is he good to go or not? Is it an oblique injury? Is nothing small, right? Like, I don't know. I just don't want this team to string all the fans along. That's what I can't stand. I mean, what do they owe us? I mean, they're trying to buy time. I get that. Let's just kind of see what, just natural rest and just a couple days of a break does. But either way, I'm fascinated to see if the Spencer Steer thing works. If the guy could still hit at a high level, but can't play defensively, I guess there's still value there. And I do feel like here's where I'm concerned. Did the Reds just tell us that they're a horrible hitting team? Am I being negative here? Think about it. If Terry Francona truly believed that the Reds had enough depth when it comes to hitting, would you really force Spencer Steer into the lineup if you didn't have to? What I'm concerned about, this Spencer Steer thing, he was supposed to be on the IL and then magically is getting at bats in a meaningless exhibition game last night. And then the IL list comes out today and he's not on it because Austin Hayes is there. The question I have is, if Austin Hayes is healthy, is Spencer Steer still being used in this capacity? I don't know. My concern is I like what this team should be able to do offensively with TJ Friedel and Matt McClain and Nelly De La Cruz and a Jameer Candelario. When Austin Hayes is healthy, Spencer Steer when he's healthy. So with all that being said, it's kind of one of those situations where I want to feel confident about it. But Spencer Steer, who cannot throw a baseball, but you're going to put him as a DH and in the lineup, is that scream desperation to you guys? Do you guys get that vibe too? I don't know. I'm negative. I'm always labeled as negative, so maybe that's what I'm being in this particular situation. But nonetheless, what up, Ann? Ann just messaged into the show, the Justin Kinner Show. So go to the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. Leave your comment and opinion in the comment section, and I'll interact with you on the air. Ann messages into the show and says they probably need Spencer Steer if he can play. He looked good last night. They DFA'd Stuart Fairchild, and they all hit the ball pretty good last night in the same cold, rainy, miserable weather, and it was certainly cold. Yeah, I heard from a few people that were there that, they were glad to be watching a live baseball game at Dayton Ballpark, and it was cool to watch watch Ellie and Matt McClain and, those guys. Benson hit a big, shot last night. But yeah, the weather, it reminded everybody that it's still March last night, I think is what ultimately ended up happening either way. Ron Howard says Steer is cheaper than Hayes. That's not what this it doesn't have to do with that though, Ron, because he's cheaper than Hayes, but not by much. Look, this just comes down to how good is this team? Am I being a homer? Am I buying into this too much? I think this is a good team. I like that lineup, even with Tyler Stevenson out, and even with the limited Spencer Steer, even with Austin Hayes being out. I like this lineup. I like TJ Friedel, Matt McClain, Ellie De La Cruz. I like that that's your 1, 2, and 3 hitter. Right? I like that you have Christian Encarnacion Strand, a potential 30 home run guy. Xavier Candelario, a potential 30 home run guy. Spencer Steer, a 20 to 25 home run guy. If the power starts to develop, you have the small ball guys like the TJ Friedels, the Matt McClains, the Ellie De La Cruz, guys that are going to get on base and provide you with some of those big RBI opportunities. Like I like the makeup of this team. I do. And if Christian Encarnacion Strand is hitting in the bottom half of the order, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I like that. Continuing to, at the end of the day, I feel pretty good about that. Gavin Lux is a very good hitter. Our guys over at Chatterbox put out what a potential lineup tomorrow could look like. Gavin Lux, Xavier Candelario, Christian Encarnacion Strand. The fact that you have those 3 guys hitting in the bottom half of the order, I kind of like a little bit of the variety that this lineup provides you. I like the fact that you have your small ball guys and TJ Friedel, Matt McClain, and Ellie De La Cruz. Ellie could hit it out of the ballpark, or he can hit a basic little dribbler up the third base side and get a double. Matt McClain could put the ball in play anywhere. He's also capable of knocking it out of the ballpark. TJ Friedel has some speed. He could put the ball in play, some power, but overall, I like the small ball makeup at the top. Get guys on base, advanced runners, and then you have your big power hitters right there in the middle and lower in the lineup. Christian Encarnacion Strand, Xavier Candelario, Gavin Lux could do a little bit of it all. And then you get an Austin Hayes back. You're going to get, obviously, Tyler Stevenson back. Tyler Stevenson, honestly, probably the most underrated Red from a year ago. And then we talked about the bench guys. Austin Wins at catcher, the backup to the backup. Now that Tyler Stevenson's out, Jose Trevino going to get the start. Blake Dunn. I know you Dragons fans had a chance to see a lot of Blake Dunn. I hope, I do think it's going to have to be a Christian Encarnacion Strand. It's going to have to be a Blake Dunn. Maybe a Hurtubise. It's going to have to be someone that we're not paying attention to that has to step up and be big for this team to be something special. Because Ellie has to be Ellie. McClain has to be McClain. What you get with TJ Friedel. You went out and you got Gavin Lux for a reason. Those guys are going to be them. But if you can get a Dunn or someone along those lines that is going to step up and be an instant producer for this team, look out. I feel pretty good about them if that ends up being the case. All right, college basketball talk coming up around the corner. The Buckeyes busy in the transfer portal. They get Centerville's own Gabe Cupps. Dayton Flyers bid farewell to Malachi Smith. Malachi. Interesting run with the old Dayton Flyers. What's left of the Flyer roster, by the way? What is Anthony Grant's roster going to look like in 25? It's 25 now, and it doesn't look good. A lot of teams don't look good right now. Almost 1,000+ players in the portal just a couple days in. It's an absolute disaster. Where do our local teams go from here? We'll be right back. Who's cutting down the nets this year? Get in on all of the tournament action at ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Go from tracking the latest upsets to placing bets in just a few taps. All tournament long, new customers can get $100 in bonus bets when you make your first $10 wager. Make sure you download the ESPN Bet Sportsbook app and sign up using the promo code Radio100 to get started today. You must be 21 and older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details. That's right. If you haven't done so, download the ESPN Bet app, the Sportsbook app, and when you do that, when you register, use the promo code Radio100 so that very first time that you make your first $10 wager, you're going to put $10 on whatever wager this upcoming weekend for the Sweet 16 tomorrow, I guess. You'll instantly get $100 in bonus bets that you'll be able to use for obviously baseball with opening day tomorrow. Obviously, the remainder of the NCAA tournament, NBA, all that fun stuff going on. Radio 100. Sign up now to get place your first $10 wager and get $100 in bonus bets. All right, lots going on in college basketball here locally. How about this? This came out just a little bit ago, but former Centerville Elk star Brooks Cupps ends up entering the transfer portal, leaving Indiana. Not a surprise there. Didn't get a lot of look. The kid's unbelievable. He was part of one of the best high school basketball runs from an individual standpoint, yes, but just from a team standpoint. I mean, that Centerville team for years was just fantastic. With him being the centerpiece of that, and there was so much talent around him at Centerville too. It wasn't just him. But the bottom line is it didn't work at Indiana. Now, a lot didn't work at Indiana. I know they were a tournament team. And all this in recent years, they weren't this year, but like the point is like he just never got his footing in there. He never, with the minutes he did get, never popped off the floor. I don't know what to make of Cupps. I know what I saw when he was in high school. The kid could play basketball. There's no doubt about it. It just never really took off with him at Indiana. And then you hear and see the reports of all the money that was thrown around NIL-wise to potentially land him in Columbus. A lot of people thought Dayton is where he was going to go. I'm here to tell you, I think he made a mistake going to Ohio State. I think Cupps would have thrived at Dayton. I think he would have thrived at Dayton. I think he would have been, a lot of people, if I'm going to be completely blunt here, and I could be wrong, we've seen guys who don't work out at one school, and by not work out, I mean have horrible numbers like he did. I shouldn't say horrible numbers, just not a lot of opportunity to let those numbers grow, if I want to be fair here. But I think going from Indiana to Ohio State, you're going to chase the money, you're going to chase the brand. But I hope that works out for him. I hope he becomes the player that we were anticipating. I think a lot of people look at him and thought, man, but that's going to potentially be like an Aaron Craft type of player, that leader, except I think Cupps can shoot way better than Aaron Craft. Let's just be clear. But Aaron Craft, you know what he brought to the table for Ohio State. Can Cupps do that? That's what I'm not sure of. That's what I need to see. We didn't see it at Indiana. We saw it in high school, but there's a lot of really average to bad players in college that were lights out in high school. I need to see it unfold as far as that goes. So we'll see. I think he would have been better at Dayton. And I thought that's where this was trending. Malachi Smith entered the transfer portal for the Flyers. I thought that was a perfect slot to go get Cupps to kind of slide into that point guard spot. This won't be a popular take. I don't care. Dayton got better yesterday when Malachi entered the transfer portal. Like, you can't, in today's college basketball, if you have a point guard that can't shoot and can't take you off the dribble and turns the ball over a lot, he's not a good point guard. Malachi Smith was not a good point guard. And I don't care. You can go find select games where he put up 17 and 18 and stuff like that. I really don't care about that. For a guy being in his, third or fourth year, I thought his composure around campus, let's just be clear, around campus and in games was just sporadic. I don't get it. I was never a Malachi Smith guy. I was telling people for years, I felt everyone was falling for the, oh my gosh, Scoochie was awesome. Scoochie was Scoochie. Malachi was Malachi. Malachi was never Scoochie. And he got a huge pass because he was Scoochie's brother, but he was never Scoochie Smith. Not even close. I see a lot of people, commenting on social media how it's unfortunate that, Anthony Grant let him go. I'm not a big Anthony Grant guy, but I wouldn't have begged him to stay either. I think whoever they get to play point guard next year, they're going to be instantly better because Anthony Grant's going to go get a point guard that can shoot, that can take you off the dribble, that can play defense. It's not going to turn it over. and is going to be a leader out on the floor. That's something Malachi wasn't. He just wasn't. And I thought that with Malachi leaving, I thought Cupps would have been a perfect, been a perfect player to slot in that point guard spot to run things for obviously Anthony Grant. That's the thing too that Dayton has really struggled with. Like, this is why, like, everyone that got mad at me for pointing out how bad Malachi is, I'm like, because you spent the last 2 or 3 years trying to replace Jalen Crutcher. And everyone thought that, well, Jalen Crutcher's gone. Malachi's a different player than Jalen Crutcher. Malachi is different than Jalen Crutcher because Jalen Crutcher was good. That's why they were different. You needed a leader out on that floor, and I think that Cupps could have been that. I'm disappointed he went to Ohio State, to be honest. I think Cupps would have killed it at Dayton. However, if Cupps turns into a star at Ohio State, that's fine. Ohio State, that's my team. I'm fine with that. I'm more than fine if Cupps works out there. I just don't know if he will. Maybe I'm being negative. But I didn't see it at Indiana. I haven't seen that it factor from Cupps in a while, and obviously it's still there probably, and he's going to have a chance with Jake Diebler and company. But Jake Diebler needs that point guard. What I just talked about with Anthony Grant needing that, Jake Diebler needs that as well at Ohio State. We'll see what ends up happening. Brandon Knoll entered the transfer portal, leaving Wright State. I talked to so many people throughout the season. Everyone felt Brandon Knoll was coming back. Alex Hubrick's entering the portal didn't surprise me. I think he hurt his stock down the stretch. Alex Hubrick was not good down the stretch. Alex Hubrick is a very good basketball player. Alex Hubrick was not good down the stretch. I know he's had some back issues. He's had some back surgeries. And some of that had been kind of flaring up throughout the season from what I've been told. But I'm kind of bummed because I thought that, I thought it was cool when Clint Sargent got the job taking over for Scott Nagy, that the entire roster could have just left Clint and that coaching staff on their own to kind of fend for themselves a bit. There was a lot of loyalty shown. Alex Hubrick returned, and Drew Wellich, who technically entered the portal, ended up coming back. Brandon Knoll returned. Brandon could have left last. Many people were shocked that Brandon stayed. A lot of people I talked to, not within the program, but outside the program, thought that with Nagy leaving, there was the perfect opportunity for Brandon to branch out. He was the player, the Horizon League preseason player of the year, finished all conference second team. We kind of debating, about whether he should have been on first team or not, but he nearly averaged a double-double, almost 20, 21, and 10 on the year. He enters the portal. I just thought he'd come back. I'm going to be honest with Brandon Knoll about this. Brandon Knoll's a hell of a player. I don't think Brandon Knoll's going to be very good if he goes to Ohio State or a bigger school. I thought that the Horizon League was a perfect I thought that was a perfect league for Brandon to dominate in. And I watched Brandon struggle against much bigger, more athletic bigs. So that would be my concern with where he goes next. Because you would have to think he's going to a bigger school. Could it be Dayton? I did see him at UD Arena this past weekend. It could just be that he was taking in the beautiful UD Arena for the OHSA state tournament. But I've heard some things. I'll just leave it at that. Dayton could potentially be in play there. Who knows? I don't know how well. I think the A-10 could be a safe transition for him. I think their bigs are obviously bigger in the A-10 than the Horizon League, no doubt about it. I just watched him really struggle against stronger and more athletic bigs. Loud and Love dominated bigs no matter which team you played for. Grant Basile left Wright State, went to Virginia Tech. I thought that when Tanner Holden went to Ohio State that he'd be the better of the two transfers. Tanner Holden was not good at all at Ohio State, and Grant Basile ended up killing it there. So, who knows? I do not think Brandon Knoll's a very good old school basketball player, but that's the problem. He could shoot the three, but he's not a three-point shooter. And I think to be a dominant big, if you're not going to be a dominant eater on the glass, you have to at least be a very good three-point shooter. And he's a capable three-point shooter. I don't think he's a great three-point shooter. I'm fascinated to see where he ends up. I really am. Who knows what ends up happening? I just hope Wright State what ends up happening. I love this coaching staff. I hope that they go get mean athletic guards. Like, the nice guys, love them. Don't get me wrong. But I've watched that conference change over the last couple of years. It's become very guard-centric, and the guards for Wright State over the last couple of years have just not been good enough. Even with the bigs that they've had, Wright State's had some good bigs. It just hasn't been enough. They've had some of the best bigs in the league. They've had better bigs than pretty much everybody else. But they also had complementary guards and shooters. Well, they've had the shooters. They haven't had the complementary guards, and they've been eaten alive by more athletic teams. Robert Morris ate them alive and teams like that. They need to go get legit scoring guards out of the portal. And I'll just be honest. I don't care I don't care if they're the smartest kids in the classroom or not. It's a dog eat dog world. Go get dudes that could play. Go get guys that could play. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to when it's all go get guys that could play basketball, is kind of how I view it. And who knows? Maybe there's guys that could do both, but we'll see what ends up happening there. Portal's going to be interesting, but Wright State, they've ton of players leave. They got a lot of guys returning. Alex Brustcotter, obviously Solomon Callahan, Aiden Davis. That's the next great big at Wright State, by the way. If you go, you look at the Loudon Love to Grant Basile to Brandon Knoll. I promise you this much: when you go to games next year, Aiden Davis, that's the name to keep an eye out for. That's the next great big at Wright State. I promise you that much. That's why I'm bummed Brandon Knoll left, because it would have been fun to see Brandon Knoll and Aiden Davis dominate on the block together. I think that would have been fun, but who knows? A lot of changes. Dayton, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I don't get it. Marvel Allen entered the portal. Marvel Allen, I remember when he committed to Dayton, everyone lost their minds. I mean, I remember, reading about the kid too. Hell of a talent. Never got the opportunity at Dayton. I have no clue what's going on there. I don't know if Jacob Connor, what's going to happen there. I don't know what's going to end up happening there with the local kid. There's a lot of question marks. I started this out with saying Malachi Smith. Malachi Smith, despite everyone loving Malachi because of who his brother is, I'm telling you right now, Dayton is instantly better because he entered the portal. I'm glad that Malachi Smith is not going to be a Flyer next year, because they had to get a legitimate point guard. Now they have a chance to go get one. They don't have one yet. I thought it was going to be Cups. We'll see what happened. What up, Gary? Gary Peck on Facebook. He's logged into the Justin Kinder Show through the Facebook page. He says Malachi Smith got worse every year that he was here, and he wasn't very good when he came. Ironically enough, if you go back and find clips of when he got here, I always said he was like a pit bull, man. Like, the kid was unbelievable. I loved Malachi Smith early because he didn't have as much responsibility when he first came up, and he was a dog defensively. All right. And he was just so aggressive. He wasn't a great shooter, but he'd put the ball on the deck and he'd attack and he'd make plays at the rim. But then when he became a player that teams started focusing on, or at least game planning for, you could take him out. I watched games this year where he ended. Yeah. Ron Howard says addition by subtraction. Exactly. Malachi Smith for the first time in years, Malachi Smith made the Flyers better, this time by entering the portal, in my opinion. Like addition by subtraction. But I was very high on Malachi Smith years ago. But, there's times this year where I'd see them in close games and he'd chest bump an opponent and nearly get teed up. He got teed up one time. That's not a leader. That's not a leader on the floor. I don't want that. We'll see what the Flyers end up doing. How about Xavier? Making some big news? Flyers rival right there, or kind of, I guess. They don't play. But the bottom line is Xavier made a huge splash of a hire. The Big East. Well, they get a double dose of Pitino. We're going to talk about that when we come back. What did you guys think of the Xavier hire? Richard Pitino leaves New Mexico to take the Xavier job. Sean Miller out at Xavier takes the Texas job. Man, oh man, Ohio basketball, pretty damn interesting. You look at Ohio State getting cups. The Flyers have a ton of spots to fill. Here locally, Wright State, they have a ton of spots to fill. Xavier, they thought they were in trouble after losing, obviously, Sean Miller. They end up probably making, in my opinion, the best hire so far this offseason, and the tournament's still going. So we'll be right back. It's the Justin Kinder Show presented by Frickers, hour number 2, coming up next.
Day, everything we said about Ryan Day up into the playoffs was true.
Not bad. Come on, Kenner. You can do better than that.
To be fair, of all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow is the least accomplished.
Getting better.
1,000,000%. I 1,000,000% believe that the Dayton Flyers are afraid of the Wright State Raiders. That's why they come up with every excuse in the book not to play them.
There it is. The hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kenner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Sean Miller left the Xavier Musketeers to take the Texas job. Texas, the same team that Xavier just beat in Dayton at the NCAA First Four just last week. Sean Miller, one and done, I guess I should say 2 and done in the NCAA tournament, takes the Texas job. Xavier fans all upset. Can't believe we gave him a chance to come back a second time, and then he screwed us over. No, he didn't. He won you 3 NCAA tournament games in 3 years. He got you to a Sweet 16. You won a tournament game this year. Sean Miller did not screw anybody over. I did find this interesting. So Matt Norlander, covers college basketball, had an interesting soundbite. I wish I had it pulled up. Let me see if I still have it. Either way, while I'm looking for that, I'll basically just tell you kind of the gist of it a little bit. But the bottom line is that Matt Norlander, interestingly enough, weighed in on Sean Miller's ultimate decision to leave Xavier. Basically said that, hey, at the end of the day, although he's been to many NCAA tournaments at Xavier, Xavier's been to many tournaments with and without him. The bottom line is he wanted to go somewhere where he felt he could win a national championship and compete and contend for first Final Fours on the regular. Now, Flyer fans, I think y'all can agree with me. That sounds familiar, correct? Wasn't that the exact same reasoning that we heard why Archie ultimately left? If you guys can remember, Neil Sullivan, the athletic director for the Flyers, had came out at the time and said that they were prepared and had the resources to make Archie Miller at the time a top 10 compensated coach in college basketball. And he left. And I said years ago when that happened, I said that needed to be a reminder to a lot of fans out there that Dayton's not a bad program. Dayton's just not the program that you think it is. Archie made he made Elite Eights, he made Sweet 16, he made tournament runs, he made the tournament almost every year, right? Like that's just what he did. He could have been a regular tournament, a coach of a regular tournament team in an NBA style arena. Great community fan support. Top 10 compensated coach in college basketball, according to what Neil Sullivan said that they were willing to do. And he turned that all down because he wanted to go somewhere where he felt that they could be more of a regular contender for Final Fours and national championships. And that was when Archie said that about the Flyers, that was many took that as a slap in the face. That's the exact same thing that Sean Miller is saying about Xavier. Now, a lot of Xavier fans unhappy with what Matt Norlander said. I don't have the audio. When I find it, I'll have to play it later in the show. My apologies. But the bottom line is, as we sit here right now, he's not, you can't say that he's wrong. Getting mad at Matt Norlander or getting mad at Sean Miller for saying that, the same thing. It's almost like it came from the same playbook that Archie used years ago when he left Dayton. It's like you could understand it a little bit. Look, I saw the other day that Xavier has the 4th most NCAA tournament appearances without a Final Four appearance. They've made the NCAA tournament 29 times and have never once been to a Final Four. So for everyone out there that it keeps pointing out how wrong Sean Miller is he? He wanted to go to a team where he could contend for a national championship. To contend for a national championship, you have to get to a Final Four. He's coaching, a team that he's been to the tournament 5 times in those 8 years, and he's led them to multiple deep tournament runs, but they've never been to a Final Four. He would know better than anybody whether or not that program is capable of getting to a Final Four or not. I just found it interesting that both Miller brothers went to the same playbook in describing why they truly left their respective schools that they have had the most success at. Well, technically, you could say he had a lot of success at Arizona. I don't blame Sean for leaving Xavier for the Texas job. I don't. I think it was the right move. He's getting paid more over there. They have better resources. He can win a national championship over there. So there's that. Not saying he can't win one at Xavier, but I think the probability of winning one at Texas is higher than Xavier just based on those things. So where would Xavier go from there? It looked like Xavier was very, very close, or sounded like it. Again, Paul Frischner, who works close with Xavier, who hosted the Sean Miller podcast when he was there, of course, but has worked with Xavier for years. We had him on off the bench earlier today. We'll have that interview coming up for you here shortly to weigh in on the coaching search and what went down behind the scenes. How close was Chris Mack to returning to Xavier the way we saw Sean Miller return to Xavier? They go out and they get Richard Pitino from New Mexico to be their next head coach. And I tell you what, I think that's a hell of a hire. That is a non-Xavier type of hire. Xavier is a hire from within. They kind of remind me of Butler a lot of times. Butler likes to go back to the well. I mean, there's a reason they went back to Thad Matta a little bit, Butler is one of those they constantly hire from within, and they have a lot of success that way. And Xavier's been that way too. Xavier and Butler remind me a little bit of kind of how they operate and run things. But Chris Mack would not have surprised me whatsoever if that was the next hire, and that would have been a good hire. He's at Charleston. It would have been a hell of a hire. Xavier would have been fine. But they went out and probably made the best coaching hiring this cycle, to be honest with you. I did not expect that. That's a hell of a get. And we'll see. I had asked Paul Frischner earlier today about the NIL resources that Xavier has. How do they stack up against teams in the Big East? I think the thing that surprised me the most was the fact that Richard Pitino picked Xavier over Villanova. Richard Pitino was linked to the Villanova job. Many people thought that it was a lock. Everyone thought it was a lock that Chris Mack was going to be at Xavier. They thought it was a lock that Pitino was going to be taking over at Villanova. Villanova has won a national championship. Keep in mind, the thing that's interesting, Sean Miller leaves because he doesn't believe you can consistently compete for Final Fours and national championships at Xavier. Richard Pitino had a chance to take the Villanova job, where they have recently won national championships. You've proven it can be done there. They've proven they have the money and the resources and the campus and everything to do so, right? So Sean Miller left because he didn't feel he can do that there. Richard Pitino had a chance to go to a program that has proven it could do it in recent history, and he picked the program that has the fourth most tournament appearances in the history of college basketball without a Final Four appearance. I think that should make Xavier fans feel pretty damn good, and I know a lot of people in this city don't care about what makes Xavier fans feel pretty damn good, but I find this to be very, very interesting. I think that's a hell of a hire. I don't. That's not a typical Xavier hire, and Xavier was all over the national news and headlines today for the hire. There wasn't a lot made when Sean Miller left to take the Texas job. Xavier wasn't mentioned. It was Sean Miller takes Texas job. It wasn't, oh my gosh, Xavier loses their head coach. Xavier is all over all the news and headlines. I heard them talk about it on the Pat McAfee show today. It's all over the place. This is a big deal. The Pitino name carries a lot of weight. The success of course, Richard Pitino at New Mexico, who obviously has the Conference Player of the Year in Dent, who you would like to think is going to follow him to Xavier. Keep an eye on Xavier. I think that right now I'm bringing this up because there was a chance Xavier barely got the final at-large bid in the most recent tournament, playing in the first four, of course. If Xavier wouldn't have got that that at-large bid, it would have been the first time since 1981 that Xavier, Cincinnati, Dayton, and Ohio State all didn't get an at-large bid in the same season. That doesn't happen. Usually the tournament is represented by one, if not all, or at least more than one or two of those four teams right there. Basketball's down in the state of Ohio, and I'm curious, like Wes Miller and Cincinnati, things don't seem to be getting better there. They're, for whatever reason, still getting prepared to play in that dumb Crown tournament that tips off on April 1st. I have no clue why, in today's day and age of college athletics, with the transfer portal being open the way it is, that you would have a tournament like this and risk not having a field or a super competitive field because all these kids are going to be jumping ship and leaving everywhere. But that's besides the point. Cincinnati's not going anywhere fast. I love Jake Diebler. I love the addition of Cups. At least I like the addition of Cups. I don't know if Cups is a high major basketball player. He did not look good at Indiana. So if I got to make sure I'm not being a homer here and just saying, oh my gosh, I think it's going to be great because he played at Centerville. I want him to be great because he played at Centerville. I love when Ohio kids, local kids, kill it at Ohio State. My very first Ohio State team I ever fell in love with, it was those teams that obviously had Jamar Butler out of Lima. I'm from Van Wert, Ohio. he played at Lima Shawnee, which is in the Western Buckeye League, which is the conference that my high school played in. So there was always that pride that like, oh my gosh, someone from the same conference I played in is playing at Ohio State. How cool is that? And then you Daquan Cook obviously played in that group here from Dayton. And then you look at the next wave. You get the Aaron Crafts. Right, you get the John Dieblers, who I played against. My teams played against in high school, scrimmage against Aaron Kraft and his teams. You look at the fact that you get William Buford, one of the best scorers in the history of Ohio State basketball, and Ohio Mr. Basketball talent right there. Like, I love when the talent from Ohio ends up being put together to be one of the best teams in the entire country. I want Cups to work at Ohio State. I just don't know if it will. Sullinger was another one back in the day, an Ohio guy, a Mr. Basketball, won state titles in high school, and then goes on to be one of the best Buckeyes ever. I mean, like, good for him. Good for Thad Matta back in the day. To Chris Holtman's credit, he got a lot of Mr. Basketballs. He got a lot of those guys. Devin Royal, Colin White, a lot of Ohio kids are on that roster. I'm probably missing some obvious ones. Think of the kid that played at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's. That was a one and done. He was a Mr. Basketball, played at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's. 1 year at Ohio State, was in the league right away. But Ohio State's done a good job of getting the local talent. Now, can you win with the local talent at the highest of levels? That's the big question. That's the big question for them. And Dayton, I just feel like college basketball, like, I know I've been pretty hard on Dayton this week, but hear me out. Let's have a real discussion about Dayton real quick. I feel like when Dayton went all out to invest into that arena, I feel like college basketball was in a different time, because back then Dayton got to provide opportunities for certain student athletes that they weren't getting elsewhere. And you can, like when you think of the Chase Johnsons of the world, when you think of, some of those guys that entered the transfer portal, like Elijah and those guys like that, from USC, and Chase Johnson from Florida, Jordy Chimanga that they got from Nebraska. Do you guys remember that stretch where, it was Elijah Weaver? I mean, Anthony Grant was able to go and get Elijah Weaver, a very, very good player from USC. A player left USC to come play at Dayton. Okay. Jordy Chimanga leaves the Big Ten in Nebraska to come play at Dayton. Chase Johnson leaves the SEC in Florida to come play at Dayton. You guys remember those names, right? There was a stretch where Dayton was just, accruing a lot of these high major talents, and it's because a lot of those guys playing at those high major schools weren't getting consistent enough minutes, or just didn't like they could come to Dayton playing for the 13,000 fans. Their talent's actually going to look elevated going up against the A-10 versus having to go up against the Big Ten or high major teams every night. And like back then, it really was about vanity. It really was about the arena that you play in. It really was about the resources that you provided these student athletes. It really was, guys. It really was about the coach. It really was about the fanfare. It was about the arena that you play in. It was about the atmosphere that you're going to play in. And Dayton won early in the Anthony Grant era because of that. They were able to go and get the Chase Johnsons, the Jordy Chimungas, the Elijah Weavers. They were able to go get those guys because from high major programs. Because why would you leave a high major program to come to Dayton? Well, it's because you could play in front of 13,000 fans. You could play in an A-10 arena, an NBA style arena. You're going to compete for NCAA tournaments. You watched Obi Toppin and company, if it wasn't for COVID, get a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. I mean, it looked like a lot of these guys felt. I mean, oh, by the way, and I'm missing some. You got Ibby Watson, and you got a lot of these guys that were coming from all over the place, whether it was coming from Chattanooga, whether it was coming from Michigan. They were getting high majors from everywhere because during that time, it was about vanity, going to play in NBA-style arenas, 13,000 fans, passionate fan base, basketball-only school that invested heavily into the program. You got everything at Dayton until times changed. Now it's all about money. And this is where I think Dayton is struggling. Guys, I really do. This isn't me hating. And I think a lot of you will agree, whether you like me or not. You'll agree. 4 or 5 years ago, you could go get an Elijah Weaver, a Chase Johnson, a Jordy Chimanga, an Ibby Watson, whoever. You could go get these guys from a high major program, bring them to UD Arena on a campus visit. They're going to fall in love with it. They're going to drool at the opportunity to play in front of those 13,000 fans at UD Arena with a chance to compete to win a conference and make the NCAA tournament and win tournament games and be a part of something special, because that's all you could do back then. Now, and Dayton was built perfectly for it. You bring those guys in and you show them the arena, it worked. You show them the fans, it worked. Oh, man, Anthony Grant used to coach in the NBA. That stuff worked. The problem is, Dayton, you guys think that your arena is good enough to get whoever you want, and you're not. I'm not talking smack. I'm being 100% serious. Just listen to me. Like, basketball, times have changed so much, and Dayton leaned into their strengths that was winning them a lot of top, transfer portal guys. And now the transfer portal, it's nothing but money. It's not about fit. It's not about coaching. And I'm not saying that's the case for every player, but I'd say, by the way, folks, you don't get a portal filled with 1,200 players all making the right choices. So spare me with not all players go for the wrong reasons. The majority of them do, because I have a hard time believing that over 1,200 players that entered the portal this week, and it's probably bigger than the last time I checked, I highly doubt that 1,200 players entered the portal because their lives were all miserable. They're entering the portal looking for money. It's no longer about UD Arena. It's no longer about 13,000 fans. It's no longer about however many consecutive sellouts you guys have had. It's no longer about once a flyer, always a flyer. It is simply about money. So while UD spent years and years trying to create a palace over there, that stuff doesn't matter. All that matters is what you have with your collective. And do the Flyers have enough to compete with these teams? Because I thought Cups was a shoo-in at Dayton. Everyone I spoke to, higher ups at Dayton that pretend that they don't know me, but they do talk to me. I'm telling you right now, Dayton was very, very close to getting Cups. They got outbid. If you get outbid for Cups, what happens when you're competing to get the really good players? You know what I mean? I'm not being mean. I'm being 100% serious. That's not a shot at Cups. Cups is very good. He was not good at Indiana. So it's not like Cups was averaging like 18 points and 7 rebounds and 6 assists, and then Ohio State outbid Dayton to get him. This is a kid that didn't average a point a game, an assist a game, or a rebound a game, and somehow they couldn't outbid Ohio State to get him. That's a problem. That's why when you look at the players that have come to Dayton out of the portal, they're now coming up to Dayton. They're not coming down to Dayton. Enoch Cheeks leaves the Horizon League to come up to Dayton. Chase Johnsons aren't coming down. They're not stepping down a level to play at Dayton, because that's what used to happen. Guys would leave high major programs. They would step down a level to get that experience at UD Arena. That stuff doesn't matter anymore. That's why you're getting so many mid-major players go up to play at UD Arena. That's why you got the Enoch Cheekses of the world. You know what I mean? Like, that's why you got the local kid, with Connor. Like, no offense to those guys. Like, there's nothing wrong with these players, by the way. But you're getting players from Marshall. You're getting players from Robert Morris. What happened to the day when the Flyers were just racking up players from all over the place, like Florida and Nebraska and Michigan? It's not the same anymore. The times have passed Dayton by, and that is why they find themselves where they're at. They're now begging good mid-major players to come help them build a leader over there, a contender over there. And it used to just be the Floridas, the Michigans, the Nebraskas. Now, to be fair, Zed Key was an Ohio State guy. And I, to be honest, I love the Zed Key edition. I talked with some of the guys from the Fan over in Columbus, and they all said they don't understand the Zed Key, how he just continued to depreciate as the years went on. Like, he got worse as his career went on. There was so much upside for him, and he just never really panned out to be what he showed glimpses of at Ohio State. Either way. All right. Justin Kinner with you here, 1410 ESPN Radio. The Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. What up, Ann? Ann says, Justin, you are too young to remember before the arena. Give me Roosevelt Chapman and Don Donaher. When we were stationed here back the first time in the 80s, that team was the prime basketball destination a long, long time ago. I was fortunate to meet Don Donaher years and years ago. In fact, ironically enough, I met Don Donaher at the introductory press conference for Anthony Grant. I actually had a chance to meet Don Donaher. We were trying to get a second to catch up to exchange contact info so he can come on the show. Left, couldn't get a hold of him. I found his name in the phone book. I decided to call Don Donaher. Don Donaher was out cutting the grass, so I missed the call. I left a little voice message there. He calls back and said, Justin, I have one question for you. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. He's heard bad things about me, I'm sure. He said, how'd you get my number? I said, I looked it up in the phone book. And he goes, let me ask you. And you just said, Justin, you're too young to remember. Don Donaher said, Justin, let me ask you, how the hell do you know what a phone book is? I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But Don Donaher did come on the show around the time that Anthony Grant was hired. And then I'll never forget when Schlemmer and I were doing the show. Velvet came in. We had Chapman here in the studio, which was pretty dang cool. But he's an interesting character, but I've heard nothing but just amazing things about who he was as a player. And you're right. I am too young and did not get to see any of them play back in the day or coach, but either way, loved Roosevelt and Don Donaher nonetheless. But there you go. All right. Justin Kinner with you here, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. It's tax season. Tax season's here. Tax season's wrapping up. All right. And I still have yet to file my taxes. For those of you who are like me that have procrastinated and waited and are like, oh my gosh, running out of time, give my guy Michael Maxwell with Arrowhead Tax Service a call here today. 937-543-5770. Arrowhead Tax Service, ready to help serve you at 113 West Jefferson Street in New Carlisle. Arrowhead Tax Service gives back to the community through athletics and nonprofits, and all new clients save 10% off online at arrowheadtaxservice.com, where their target is your satisfaction. Appreciate Michael Maxwell and Arrowhead Tax Service. The Taxes to Go app, you can get all your information sent over there safely and securely through the app. He'll file everything back at his office, and he'll let you know when you can come pick everything up and tell you how much you're going to get on your return. So pretty cool stuff. He makes it easy. And if you have never filed with Michael Maxwell before, you get a 10% discount for new customers. How about that? So give him a call one more time, 937-543-5770. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. We will be right back.
Here on Dayton's home of the Reds, 1410 ESPN Radio.
That's right. You can catch every single Cincinnati Reds game this season right here on Dayton's radio, home of the Reds, 1410 Wing AM. I can't believe it. Tomorrow's opening day. What's the weather look like for tomorrow? I do know that for me to convince my wife to go to the game tomorrow, I had to make sure that I got her like one of those heated vests. Like I had to make sure that she is taken care of and nice and warm for tomorrow. But it shouldn't be too bad. My phone says 59 and partly cloudy tomorrow. I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's terrible. 59. Let's see what the hourly is. Says, well, data failed to load. Pull down to let's refresh this. Let's see what we're working with. But yeah, I'm excited for tomorrow, opening day. The Cincinnati Reds. I know a lot's been made about the guys who aren't active and ready to go. But I do think we should turn our attention towards the guys who are. You know, it's funny. I made a lot of people upset. I've had one of the, it's been one of those things where I've had some really hot takes in the past, but this is one of those takes I didn't think was that hot of a take. I know last night it was a cool concept. Last night, the Reds against the future prospects at Dayton Ballpark. The concept of it was cool. It was a celebration, 25 years of Dragons baseball. I honestly believe that there are better ways to commemorate a 25-year anniversary of having the Dragons in this city than asking a team that's already just absolutely beat up with injuries, 4 or 5 guys on the IL before we even get to opening day, all starters, now no longer starting because they're on the IL. A team that comes back from spring training for over a month, and within the day of them coming back from a month-long spring training, days before opening day, are asked to go play in a meaningless exhibition game at Dayton Ballpark. So I said, I just didn't think that was necessary. I said, I truly hope that I don't have to come on these airwaves on Wednesday and do the whole I told you so. So I'm not mad that nobody got hurt. I'm relieved that nobody got hurt. But man, oh man, I didn't think that me saying these guys going out and playing in a meaningless exhibition game after a month and a half of spring training and 4 or 5 guys, a good chunk of your starters, all on the IL to start the season, I didn't think it was that crazy to say that I wish they wouldn't have done that. They put the lineup out, Matt McClain and Ellie De La Cruz, TJ Friedel, right? Like Gavin Lux, everybody played. Spencer Steer, who's supposed to be on the IL, was a DH last night. That didn't make any sense. Now, apparently, Spencer Steer's not going to go on the DH. Not going to go on. My apologies. Spencer Steer's not going to go on the IL. So it sounds like he's going to be available to be used as a DH moving forward. But, I had someone on Twitter reach out, or X, Sirboy Wonder, whatever that name is. Sirboy Wonder says he's at Great American Ballpark right now. I guess he's taking in batting practice and watching the team practice. So he messages into the show saying, so the Reds shouldn't be working out today to preserve their health, right, Kinner? If you want to work that hard to twist what I said to be a smartass, more power to you. But I do think that even a troll like you can understand what I'm saying, right? Like if news came out today that moments after getting back from spring training that Hunter Green rolled his ankle because he was playing one-on-one with some friends at a local park, you would say, what are you doing? Days before opening day, you're out screwing around. That's what the Reds were doing yesterday, screwing around. I think there are a lot of different ways to commemorate 25 years of Dragons baseball than taking a injury-prone team and throwing them out there and risking their health. No one got hurt. It doesn't matter. The only reason I'm bringing it back up is because I have trolls like that continue to think that I'm crazy for saying maybe you don't throw your starters out there. There's a reason that in the NFL preseason, the big debate is whether to play them at all or not. It's because if they're going to get hurt, I hear people say, well, they could get hurt in week 1. If you're going to get hurt in week 1 of the NFL season, at least get hurt playing a meaningful game. If you're going to get hurt on opening day, at least get hurt playing in one of the meaningful 162 games of the regular season. If you're going to get hurt, don't get hurt in a meaningless 25-year Dayton Dragons celebration. Yeah, glad nobody got hurt. Glad I was wrong, but I'm not wrong because just because nobody got hurt doesn't mean that it was not a dumb idea to have all of those guys performing out there in a meaningless exhibition game moments after getting back from a month and a half of spring training with an injury-riddled roster. Simple as that. Simple as that. All right. Reds in action tomorrow. Hunter Green on the mound. Reds and Giants. Game 1 of 3. Game 1 tomorrow. Hunter Green on the mound. Off day Friday because after a long start to the season of one whole game, they need a day off. And then, of course, games 2 and 3 on Saturday, Sunday. A couple home games coming up this weekend. If you would like tickets to watch the Reds at Great American Ballpark this weekend, head to wingam.com and enter for a family 4-pack of tickets. Take the family to the ballpark. Just enter at wingam.com. It's free to enter. The only thing it'll cost you is just a few moments of your time, so take advantage of that. But Hunter Green on the mound tomorrow for opening day. Nick Lodolo will be on the mound for game 2 on Saturday, and then to wrap up the series on Sunday against the Giants, Nick Martinez, who, of course, got that $22.5 million deal coming into the season when they matched it. So I thought that was pretty neat. But, yeah, I like the Reds rotation because then, like on Monday, when you hit the ground running again, as I have their schedule kind of right here looking at it right now. So you obviously have the Giants tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Then you have 3 at home with the Rangers. And what I like about that is after having Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Nick Martinez on games 1, 2, and 3, now to set the tone for the next series, you're going to be rolling out there with Brady Singer, who you gave up Jonathan India to get from the Royals. I like this rotation. And the thing is, like, if Andrew Abbott was healthy, you would have the pitching combo of Brady Singer, Andrew Abbott, and then possibly Hunter Green back at the top of the order. So I like this. I like what the Reds have here with their rotation, even with Andrew Abbott being out and hurt. So again, Hunter Green tomorrow, Nick Lodolo Saturday, Nick Martinez on Monday or on Sunday. And then on Monday, a brand new series with the Rangers will be started by Brady Singer. And then Carson Spires, who's going to be the 5th starter in this rotation until they get Andrew Abbott back, will go on Tuesday night. And then next Wednesday at 12:30 first pitch, middle of the day action back at Great American Ballpark. Again, 2 of the next 7 days, you're going to get to see Hunter Green twice at Great American Ballpark. Okay, pretty exciting. Pretty good stuff there. But then again, the Reds hit the road next Thursday for 4 against Milwaukee and then 3 against San Francisco. But you're going to have Nick Lodolo, Nick Martinez, and then go right back to Brady Singer for 1, 2, and 3 games 1, 2, and 3 of that series right after. I love this Reds rotation. I love it even without Andrew Abbott. Rhett Lauder started out on the IL as well. The Reds are going to have depth with their starting pitching. I think that's exciting. What'd you guys think of Chase Petty last night? That's one of the other Reds' top pitching prospects. Chase Burns is obviously the guy that they drafted with their number 2 overall pick last year. Many believe that he is as good, if not better, than Rhett Lauder was last year at this time. And we saw Rhett Lauder get a major league call up less than a year after being drafted. So Burns, in an interview with MLB Network, came out and said that, hey, that's my goal. My goal is to be called up sooner and quicker than Rhett Lauder, who he has a very competitive friendship with. But the fact that you have obviously Rhett Lauder, you have you have a Burns, you obviously have a Chase Petty, you have so many really good arms that you could call upon at any time to help with this rotation. And Spires is another one. I'm actually excited to see Spires coming up on Sunday. Next Tuesday, my apologies. Because if Spires goes out there and throws good stuff after already getting to see a Hunter Green and a Nick Lodolo and a Nick Martinez and a Brady Singer, knowing that you also have Andrew Abbott coming back, that you have Burns in the system, you have Chase Petty in the system, I like what the Reds have. We're so negative all the time. I wanted to make sure that we took time to emphasize some of the names that are currently on this roster because there's some talent on this roster. There really is. Reds fans, I do want to hear from you. Positive fans only. We're going to get, we're going to add some positivity to today. Okay. I'm going to step away for a few moments. Positive Reds fans only. You're going to call in and you're going to tell me, what do you feel excited about the most about this team this season? What is it that has you the most jacked about this upcoming season? I'm telling you right now, for me, it's this rotation. At the risk of repeating myself again, the fact that when you look at the layout of the rotation, the Reds are going to hit the ground running with Hunter Green, who finished 8th in Cy Young voting last year on opening day, okay? And then you go right into Nick Lodolo, who has shown flashes of greatness early on in the season the last couple of years. His question marks have come as the season progresses, his durability. We'll get to that later. But the fact that you could go from Hunter Green to Nick Lodolo to Nick Martinez to Brady Singer to Carson Spires. Spires doesn't make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, but the guy's he's thrown really well during spring. For me, what I feel the most excited about this season is this rotation. The Reds are going to compete for the playoffs and maybe in the playoffs because of this rotation. They have depth. They have a legit ace in Hunter Green. They have a guy that rivaled Hunter Green for who the ace was a year ago early on in Nick Lodolo. He has the right stuff. Nick Martinez was a bullpen pitcher a year ago. But due to a need later in the year due to injury, he gets, he makes a couple spot starts here and there and then ends up pitching for the final 2.5 months of the season. Charlie Goldsmith, who covers the Reds, he came on the show with me a while back and basically said, hey, that his numbers, only 12 pitchers in baseball had better overall statistical numbers than he did last year. When you just look at his starting stuff, only 12 pitchers had better numbers, advanced analytical numbers, than he did a year ago. Nick Martinez could pitch, and in a rotation that has a Hunter Green and a Nick Lodolo and a veteran, experienced, very good pitcher and Brady Singer, man, that's my positivity. That's what it is right there. The Reds pitching is why I believe that they're going to contend and compete in 2025. What say you? What is it about this team that makes you the most excited about their chances to compete in 2025 or less than 24 hours away from opening day? How we feeling, Reds fans? 937-518-1410. The Reds are going to be successful in 25 because fill in the blank. 937-518-1410. We'll be right back. All right, Justin Kinner back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio, the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. Make sure you stop on out at one of your local neighborhood Frickers for their fricking lunch combo for $10.99. The frickin' lunch combo features many options, such as frickin' chicken chunks, cheeseburgers, charbroiled chicken wraps, and the frickin' chicken wrap. You can also get a side and a drink, all for $10.99. The frickin' lunch combo is available Monday through Friday between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Dine in or carry out. Keep that in mind. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. We talked about it a little bit ago, but a big get for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Jake Diebler and company. They've lost Mahaffey and a couple key pieces to the portal, but it was about time that they started making some additions, of course. Well, one of those additions has officially, or they've officially made it official, if you will, but Jake Diebler lands Centerville native Indiana transfer and former Mr. Basketball Gabe Cupps, who officially makes it over to Ohio State. Gabe Cupps had been linked to Dayton, and to be honest, as I stated in the show earlier, when it was made official that Malachi Smith was jumping into the portal, I felt like there was a parallel between that. I felt that we were watching Malachi Smith, who has been the point guard for the Flyers for a few years now, enter the portal because of the potential incoming of a Gabe Cupps. I love that Gabe Cupps is a Buckeye now. I say that, however, not knowing just how good of a college basketball player he is. We know how talented he is as a high school basketball player. Mr. Basketball was a part of a hell of a run with the Centerville Elks. I mean, that little dynasty run with those guys, with that class, it was pretty neat. And he just looked, watching him when he's out on the floor, he just had a different look to him, man. Like, he just stood out. But he did not stand out at Indiana. He did not look the part at Indiana. And I don't know if it's just because he wasn't utilized correctly, wasn't developed correctly at Indiana. But I hope that if there's something there to work with for him to be an elite high major basketball player, that it clicks, because I would love to see that work at Ohio State. They have Mr. Basketball Gabe Cupps. They have Colin White from Ottawa Glandorf, who was a Mr. Basketball guy there too. Obviously Devin Royal from a few years ago. I mean, the fact that you have a Gabe Cupps and another, finalist, obviously, and a couple of those guys, I like what the Buckeyes have. They have a lot of Ohio talent. And Ohio State's traditionally always gone that route, loading up with Ohio talent. And at times it's worked. I mean, we watched Thad Matta compete for multiple Final Fours with multiple recruiting classes, with the core being from, Ohio. You had David Leidy from St. Joe's over near Cleveland. Daquan Cook, Jamar Butler, John Diebler, William Buford. And that those were for those original classes that they went to the Final Four with Greg Oden back in the day. That was the Daquan and Jamar Butler and guys like that. Jamar Butler did bleed into the next class that did feature the John Dieblers and the William Bufords and guys like that. David Leidy played, all of them. Like, Thad Matta used to get the best talent in the state of Ohio and would go compete with the best teams in the entire country at the college basketball level. To Chris Holtman's credit, he got the Colin Whites, he got the Devin Royals, he got the Austin Parks, the kid out of St. Mary's at the 7-footer who's now in the transfer portal. Austin Parks, if the Flyers and the Raiders are not going after Austin Parks, I don't know what to tell you. That's a 7-footer that could play at the D1 level, that I do think the high major level was just a little too much for him. He's a 7-footer. Go get him, Wright State. My gosh. I would be really frustrated if I saw that they're not on the list of guys trying to go after an Austin Parks there. But the bottom line is Chris Holtman did a good job of going after all the best talent in Ohio. But if you go get the best talent in Ohio and you can't compete with the best teams in the country at college, at some point, not saying the kids in Ohio don't matter, but I just want you to go get the best players in the country. I used to be big on what I loved about those Aaron Kraft and Jamar Butler and John Diebler and William Buford and, those guys, and those are all different classes. I get that. But even with the Solingers, I loved watching a conglomerate of Ohio high school talent come together to form elite college basketball programs and then go compete for Final Fours. And we got that with Thad Matta. But we got that with Thad Matta because that talent was different. College basketball was different. Right now, you're making an all-star roster of Ohio talent Well, all the high major programs out there are making all-star rosters of the best college talent, and that's the problem. Gabe Cupps at Ohio State, that's fantastic. Devin Royal at Ohio State, that's fantastic. Colin White at Ohio State, that's fantastic. Austin Parks, who was there, fantastic. Can you play basketball at the highest level? Michi Johnson, there it is again. Michi, I met his brother, Marcus Johnson, last weekend. Sonny Johnson coaches over at Garfield Heights. He coached Michi. Sonny won Mr. Basketball, I believe, back in like 1998. And now he's coaching his son, Marcus, who just won Mr. Basketball this year. They're the first father-son combo to win, the Mr. Basketball in the state of Ohio. I think that's pretty cool. That's never happened before. So to have Sonny win it back in 98 and all these years later to watch Marcus do it, and Michi was a hell of a talent too. But every elite player from Ohio, not many get out. Luke Kennard got out. There's some guys that get out, but like, man, I think it's cool that you want to try to, recruit your backyard, but recruit your backyard if it's good enough to go win a national championship or get to a Final Four. I think fans need to ask themselves, if you are a Buckeye basketball fan, you truly need to ask yourself, do you want a roster of the best Ohio high school talents in the state? Or do you want a roster of some of the best talents in the country? Because I have not seen since Thad Matta that you could recruit the best talent in this state and go compete for Final Fours. I don't think you could do it anymore. So I love that Gabe Cupps is back in Columbus, or not back, but is, I guess, back in Ohio, but is at Columbus now at Ohio State. But can Jake Diebler go win and compete and get to a Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four with all Ohio kids? I get it. You want your cake and you want to eat it too. I just want to eat. I don't care where you get the cake from. I don't care if it's store-bought. I don't care if you made it yourself. I don't care. I just want to eat the cake. I'm fat. I just want to eat the cake. I just want to watch my team win. Okay? I don't want to eat a bad piece of cake because you got organic ingredients. I don't care about any of that stuff. Go get the best talent in the country. I want Gabe Cupps to work at Ohio State, but I am tired of reading so many articles. Ohio State lands another talent from Ohio. That's great. That's great. Devin Royal, Gabe Cupps, Colin White. We've seen a conglomerate. I mean, even Tanner Holden, who was at Wright State for years, helped lead them to their first NCAA tournament win in school history. He has that big performance in the NCAA tournament. He entered the portal and ended up going to Ohio State. That was another Ohio kid. In fact, Tanner Holden was being looked at Ohio State for football. Tanner Holden was originally being recruited to play football at Ohio State, chose Wright State to go play basketball. So there you go. Jordan Earhart says, if you eat the cake, are you not also having the cake? All right, I maybe said it wrong. You want to have your cake and eat it too. I don't know, but you see my point. If I could watch Ohio State build a team that can get to the Final Four and not have one Ohio talent on it, I'll take that over making an Ohio high school all-star roster of Mr. Basketballs in the state of Ohio and constantly missing the NCAA tournament. I would love to see it work, but it hasn't worked since Thad Matta back in the early 2010s. And that was the Jared Sullinger, William Buford class. We saw Dayton put Ohio State out of their misery with Aaron Kraft, and they haven't been the same. Dayton broke the Buckeye program. I don't like giving Dayton credit for anything, but Ohio State basketball has not been the same since Aaron Kraft left. I got a chance to catch up with Aaron Kraft, Dr. Aaron Kraft, by the way, but got a chance to catch up with him this past weekend at UD Arena. Pretty cool. He was inducted into the Circle of Champions by the Ohio High School Athletic Association. So they always do that on the Saturday night with all the championships. So that was pretty neat. Jim Tressel was inducted into that last year. Keith Byers the year before that. I mean, every year they always have a headliner. Pretty neat. All right. What time we got? Look at that. 5:05 here in the Miami Valley. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. We got about another hour before we get, actually, no, tomorrow, I'm sorry, my ADD is getting the best of me. Tomorrow, Reds opening day, 4:10 the first pitch, 3:40 coverage begins, and then off day on Friday, games 2 and 3 against the Giants on Saturday and Sunday, and then hit the ground running. The season's officially here. Let's see. So the first off day for the Reds after opening day, obviously Friday, like always. But when the Reds, so the Reds play tomorrow, off day on the 28th. They'll play on the 29th against the Giants. They will not have another off day until April 10th. I hope that's true, because this is usually that time of year where we start getting a lot of the rain coming in. So I hope that's not the case. I hope we get all those games in, by the way. But either way. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you hanging out today. No show tomorrow. I'm going to be in Cincinnati at opening day. Really looking forward to that. And I hope you guys are going as well. Enjoy it. Like I said, 2 years ago was my first opening day experience. And me and my best friend and his wife and my wife, like, we've made it a tradition now. We're going every year. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting there bright and early tomorrow. Might have a drink or two when it's all said and done, but we'll see. Here's to a fun season of Reds baseball. When we come back on Friday, hopefully we're talking about a Reds opening day win. But until Friday, this has been the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Oh, yes, wingam.com. If you want a chance to win a family 4-pack of Reds tickets, go enter at wingam.com. And we'll get you some tickets to see the Reds and Giants games 2 and 3 coming up this weekend. Wingam.com. Thank you.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Progressive knows